Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome, everybody, to episode 122 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case on George River Boulevard for all your playoff needs. For adult beverages, get over to Outlet Liquor. Tell them Two Goalies, One Mic sent you. I am joined by my co-host, Connor Hurley. Hurls, how are you doing? How have you enjoyed round one so far? And how is life on the West Coast?
Life on the West Coast is pretty good. We had a rough winter, and I know that me saying that might be seen as a little uppity. But for about 2 months here, it rained like every single day. It was in the 40s. It was actually pretty cold by LA standards. So just in the past 2 weeks, though, thankfully, we're back to 65, 75 and sunny every day. No rain in the forecast for the next 2 months. So we're back to what I expect, at least. It's not why I moved here, but it's just my situation. Also, the best part about being on the West Coast is that playoff games start at 4 p.m. Pacific. You get out of work and you get, on certain nights, 2 or 3 playoff games at the same time. It's really, really nice. And as you said, the playoffs have been absolutely electric thus far. So many overtime games, so many close series, no sweeps whatsoever, competitive hockey. It's what we expected with the level of talent that has graced the NHL this year. So it's been a lot of fun to watch thus far.
Yeah, and again, kind of just no easy series so far. I mean, obviously Carolina's up 3-1 on the Isles, but other than that, like, everything has been pretty tight in the first round. I've enjoyed, it's been one of the more fun first rounds, and I've always enjoyed the first round the most because it's always been the most physical, most brutalizing round of hockey, in the playoffs. And it's just been a lot of fun to watch. When you have Austin Matthews and Steven Stamkos fighting, I mean, that says a lot. And or Linus Ullmark challenging Matthew Tkachuk.
I wish they would have let him go. I wish they would have let him go.
Oh, that would have been fantastic. But hey, it's been a lot of fun. Leafs are in familiar territory, up 3-1 in the first round, but that's, especially when you're the Leafs, it's never, just because you're up 3-1, you can never really feel comfortable because they have a history of blowing huge leads like that. So, but yeah, we'll get into that. But other than that, man, life here in Buffalo, your typical Buffalo spring. We were in the high mid 70s late last week. And now it's been in the mid 40s. So, typical Buffalo spring. You're never really sure when you're going to get the really consistency with the warm weather. Hopefully it's soon to come. But I was able to get out and golf a couple times last weekend, which was nice. I had an 86 at Diamond Hawk, which was pretty pumped about.
Pretty good.
Yeah, especially at that course. I don't know if you've ever played that course.
Yeah, no, I played it once. That's tough. That's
the front nine is very unforgiving. Very unforgiving. There's, you better hit it straight or you're losing your ball on that front nine. So, was pretty pumped, and then the time I went before that, I think I mentioned before, but I knocked down an 80-foot birdie, which was pretty awesome with my 60 degree.
No hole in one though.
Yeah, you had a hole in one, which is cool.
No hole in one though. Yeah. No I won a tournament this past Sunday too. So now that it's the off season for me, now that the Sabres are done, I'm in full golf mode as the team is. I actually saw Tage Thompson and Dylan Cousins playing together down in South Carolina last week. I think they were at Hilton Head. I'm not sure. Kind of sucks because obviously we wish they'd be playing in the first round right now. But they had a tough season, a lot of injuries, really good stretch run. So it's good to see the boys out there enjoying themselves.
Yeah, it just I think Yoki Haru and Olmark look like they've been golfing a lot together via Olmark's Instagram account. Before that, it was Paterka and Olmark. It seems like the guys are kind of sticking together and just enjoying their time.
You mean,
not going their separate ways.
You mean Luukkonen, not Olmark, right? I hope not.
I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The two Finnish guys. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. Like as we've talked about, like team's really close, and it doesn't seem like these guys are all just going to go their separate ways in the offseason. Like we've seen that in the past where everyone just leaves Buffalo, they go elsewhere, they go to Canada, they go to their lake houses, they go overseas. It seems like a lot of these guys really, they said it in their exit interviews, they really do want to stay in Buffalo. They want to form the culture there. They want to create a community, not just within the Buffalo community, but a community amongst themselves. And I think they're close enough, and hopefully they keep the core together to the point where that remains the same. So they have that continuity going into next season. I think that would be honestly the best thing that they can do this summer, just to keep those vibes at an all-time high. Well, not an all-time, but at least as high as they've been in a long time. So I think that actually low-key is a pretty good thing to look out for this offseason if we see these guys spending time together and getting to know each other even more than they already do.
Yeah. Also, last night advanced to the championship game in my roller hockey league. Pretty pumped about that.
Nice.
In 30 and over, the old man's league, essentially.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I feel pretty old, but
yeah, I mean, same. I played two games in a row last week. Probably the worst game of my life on Wednesday, and then I came back on Thursday and won in a shootout. So it's a physical and mental battle every single week.
I play defense at roller. I can't do goalie and roller. It's just too much on your hips and your knees. Not being able to slide.
It is tough.
I used to be a stud at roller and net, but I just hated it. I hated everything about it.
I don't like it either, but got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, but we won 8-2. It was actually 1-1 going into either 1-1 or 2-1 going into the third, and then floodgates just opened. I had a pretty nasty, between the legs, backhand toe drag early in the first, coming in wide on the blocker side. Faked the shot, went between the legs, pulled to my forehand, backhand, lifted it over his blocker and hit the post. Oh, dude. I would have been 6 to midnight if that would have went in.
Who says goalies don't have hands?
How about that? I have hands-ish.
How about that? We'll take it.
They've gotten better. They've gotten better.
I personally don't at all. That's partially why I switched. So
yeah. But after that, just kind of stayed back and played D, and took that one home pretty easily in the third period, 8-2, and then we play tomorrow at 7:15. For all those who want to attend,
everybody get out there. If you're
the Northtown Center,
go to the Duane
7:15 Eastern Standard Time.
I'd be there if I was still in West
Virginia. Team Blue. I'm not sure if we're Team Blue or Team Green. We don't even name. We're Team Blue or Team Green in the 30-up league, and 7:15. So
love it.
But yeah, I'm pumped for that. Our men's league at Harbor Center is getting ready to start up again here soon for the summer session. Whole new group of guys coming back. Then we have our small core group of guys. So, but yeah, excited for that too. So. But nobody really cares about that. We'll get right into the playoffs. Obviously, again, an exciting first round. As a Sabres fan, you hate to see the Leafs playing well. You hate to see Jack Eichel playing well at the Vegas Golden Knights. But again, I've enjoyed watching that Avs Seattle Kraken series tied up at 2. That's been a lot of fun. I think that's been the most interesting and most fun series for me to watch when I have been able to. And then obviously I'm always paying attention to what's going on with the Leafs and hoping that they just, continue the trend of not getting past the first round. So, I don't know what have you enjoyed the most in this first round?
I mean, I, like you said, started off enjoying the Leafs not playing well. I think last night I don't want to say, like you say, never say never with the Leafs because they have a history of blowing leads, but you're up 4-1 as the Lightning in game 4 at home on your home ice, and you blow that lead and let the Leafs come back and make it a 3-1 series. I think the Leafs are the better team. I think going into this, I think they had the advantage in a lot of different areas. And more than anything, it's as we've discussed, the Lightning have played more games than any team in the past 3 seasons, strictly because they've gotten to the Stanley Cup all 3 years. So they're tired. You can kind of just tell. Like if you blow a 4-1 lead in the playoffs, it's got to be at least something to do with fatigue. John Cooper mentioned the 3 goals that the Leafs scored. He doesn't put them on Vasilevsky, and I wouldn't necessarily either, just because they are really good tips. But that's also attributed to not having your defensemen clear the front of the net, tie up sticks, be as tough as they usually are. And I would at least that would lead me to believe that these guys aren't as on it as they have been in the past. You don't see those types of goals in these past 2 or 3 playoffs from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously the team's not as good, but I couldn't believe they blew that lead. And I do believe that the Leafs actually do get out of the first round tomorrow night at home. I really do believe they're the better team.
I mean, just for free hockey.
I mean, you never know. Yeah. But
I want as much hockey as we can. The NHL has to be loving this. No sweeps here in the first round. They're gonna get their money's worth. Both ticket sales, TV, TV advertising, the whole shebang. Here they're getting their money's worth for this first round. In the first round this year, and I hope that somehow series goes 7 games just to watch the Leafs fans.
For entertainment purposes, like that would be great for us, obviously. But
yes,
I really believe Samsonov appears to have figured it out. The Leafs top guys, they're all getting it done. They're all scoring. They're all producing. They got that toughness that they needed. Like Noel Acciari, as we saw at the deadline, Kerfoot's playing well. Luke Schen's playing well. He's making hits. It just seems like they finally have, and obviously Ryan O'Reilly, they finally have the team to get out of the first round. We'll see what happens after that. Whether I think they would have to play the Hurricanes if they eventually beat the Islanders, or maybe it's the Bruins. Yeah. Either way, like that's a tough series. So yeah, it's somewhat disappointing, and I kind of liken it to what's happened with the Oilers and the Kings. Obviously, everybody expects the Oilers to advance. Like they were my cup pick. They have the best player in the world. They probably have the second best player in the world. The way Leon Draisaitl's been.
Draisaitl's been on the ice for all 14 of their goals.
Yeah, he's been incredible, and it's not just because of McDavid. He's been amazing. But even the Kings the other night, they blew a 3-0 lead. It's obviously, like you said, it's good for viewership, but like that never happens in the playoffs. Like it seems like either the defense or the goaltending with a lot of these teams, like. Even the best guys like Connor Hellebuck, like he hasn't played up to his standard that we've been used to. The only guy that's really been like largely as good as we thought he would have been would be Shesterkin. And even that series is tied at 2 now, 2 road wins on each side for the Rangers and the Devils. So yeah, it's been crazy. It's been up and down. I'm obviously not following as closely as I would have if the Sabres were in it, but like you see stuff on social media, you see stuff on ESPN's homepage, like it is gaining traction. And I think, like you said, like it is as good for the league as they could have wanted. And the only thing that could make it worse is if Connor McDavid loses in the first round, which I really hope doesn't happen. Even being out here in LA, like they need their best player to be showcased as much as possible.
Yeah. And again, it's in terms of that, the Rangers Devils series. I mean, I think that's the one that, in terms of just rivalry, like tradition, just getting, you kind of look back at a lot of those mid to late 90s matchups they had back in the old days with Mike Richter and Marty Brodeur. Like I've loved every second of that series too. Seeing a young Devils team and experience, they take accountability after going down 2-0 and clawing their way back into tying that series up. And I love Lindy Ruff's one comment. What's the goalie's name again?
Schmid.
What is it?
Is that the guy that came in, Schmid, for the Devils?
Yeah.
Schmid.
Yeah. They asked him about his rebounds. He goes, well, the good thing about our rebounds usually means your goalie's making the saves. I don't think we would have heard Lindy used to say that back in the day when he coached.
No, he was usually pretty tough on goalies.
Yeah, he would never heard him say that. Yeah. And again, just it's been a really fun series to watch. That's another series I hope goes 7 games too, just for entertainment value. It's been fantastic.
I thought it would from the beginning, to be honest, just the way those two teams have played each other. But now that you have 2 road wins, like the series doesn't start. What do they say? Like the series doesn't start until somebody loses a game at home. Yep. I mean, it started in game 1, and obviously now it's 2-2. So
a lot of teams, they're all having trouble winning games at home.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, to be honest. Like you usually don't see that.
One of the things too with Tampa too is Vasilevsky. I don't know if it's just me or if you've noticed it too. He's had a lot of trouble tracking the puck from the point. Like,
well, I mean,
the pucks through. They get the pucks through, and there's been tips, but he's had issues with it. And I don't know if that's something that Tampa, that Toronto has paid attention to, because it seems like they keep on filtering that puck back to the point, and they keep forcing the puck to the point to get the shot on that.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting listening to John Cooper after the game last night, just because they effectively were trying to get him to say, like, is there, like, what would you say about Vasilevsky's play so far? And he, like, really did defend him. He was like, no goalie in the world is stopping these pucks that are tipped right in front of him. So, yeah, like, when it comes down to puck tracking, like, as a goalie, like, that's the number one thing. Of course, you want to track it from the point and get in front of it. If you get beat cleanly, like, that's on you. But with the Kerfoot goal and a few of these other goals, like, what is he supposed to do? And it could be fatigue from his end, but, like, I really do believe, like, these defensemen like Victor Hedman and a lot of these guys that have played in the playoffs the past 3 years, like, they are not as tough in front of their net as they once were. And that has been the driving force for their 3 cup runs.
They miss Cernak a lot.
Yeah, they do. Exactly. And I mean,
they miss Cernak a lot. And the last 2 games, there were 1-goal games, both in OT. And I think Cernak could have been a huge difference maker for them, especially with these plays that they're like, just how congested it's been below the dots in front of the Tampa Bay net. That's where you kind of you wish you had Cernak on the ice, because he clears those lanes for Vasilevsky to see those shots. And I mean, maybe that is the biggest difference maker in this series for Toronto. I mean, it's not the play of Austin Matthews, who's been absolutely electric. It's the fact that you don't have to deal with a guy like Cernak on the blue line. It's true. He's that much of a difference maker.
I would never wish injury on a guy, but if it were to happen to anybody, karma comes around. I don't know if you remember the Lightning Sabres games this year, but some of the hits that Cernak threw against, I forget who it was specifically, but he's done that his whole career. I know Michael Bunting got suspended, but like the type of game that he plays, it's going to come right back to him. And unfortunately, in this instance, like, it was a dirty play by Bunting and he got hurt, and who knows when he'll be back. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, they have played this type of game in the past. Everybody knows the Lightning is a team that plays very physically, and they also, like, complain to the refs all the time. You saw it in the Lightning Sabres games this season. So I don't know. I think I really do believe the run has come to that end. And from a Leafs perspective, they needed this. They absolutely needed some fatigue. They needed a little lack of luster when it came from the Lightnings, because otherwise this team was just going to beat them in the first round every single season. So I think they got lucky, but they do have the team. They got a little bit more toughness, and obviously their stars are proving why they're stars. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night.
Like, been incredible too.
Yeah, like they're top guys that they're paying $40 million. Like, they are proving it, which is what they needed. And Samsonov, after a rough game 1, he has figured it out. So while we say it in jest, of course, we want the Leafs to lose, like, they are an exciting team. And I think it obviously is good for the league to see them succeed as long as possible. So we'll see what happens. I would love for it to go to 7, but I do believe it's going to end tomorrow night.
Now, if they do get past the first round, but that's it, they don't get past the second round. Like,
that's the thing, though.
Is Dubas still on the hot seat? Is Sheldon Keefe still on the hot seat there?
No, I don't think so. Especially if they win.
If they win their first, don't get past the second round.
If they win their first round series, I really don't believe they get rid of him. They have so much success in the past 3 seasons, especially with him, and they have that team. If they don't get past the second round, I think they obviously look for a better goalie, a more consistent guy that they can trust, whether that be the top free agent this offseason, Korpisalo, like we've talked about, Varlamov, or somebody else to come in there to give them more consistency, because like that's been their biggest thing over the past 10 to 15 years, right? They don't have Curtis Joseph anymore. They don't have like a guy that they can completely trust, and they haven't had that guy for a long time. So I really do believe that is what they're I would say Dubas more than Keith would probably be on the chopping block, or at least considered.
I think Dubas has done everything he could, obviously outside the goaltending thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's the biggest thing for them, though. Like if they
well,
don't have the guy that they can trust, like this is going to happen every single playoffs.
He took a crack with Murray to start the season, which is, I guess, low risk, high reward. He didn't cost you a ton. You hope that he gets back to his form that he was with Pittsburgh during those cup runs.
Yeah,
you get a guy like Samsonov who there was very high expectations for him. He didn't live up to him in Washington. You hope that he finds his game and reestablishes himself as the goalie he once was. But other than that, like Dubas has done. I mean, bringing in Ryan O'Reilly, TJ Brody, Luke Shen, just all these guys he brought in, and what more top to bottom of that lineup is he supposed to do? I mean, I think Sheldon Keefe might be the guy that you would probably look at as the one to go, not Dubas.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens, and it depends on what type of series it is. Like if they get swept by the Hurricanes or the Bruins, like obviously that would be a red alarm. I really do think it is easier said than done to just like get that guy in net. Like I say this like somewhat facetiously, but like not everybody can have a prospect like Devin Levi.
No,
like not everybody can be as blessed as the Sabres were to have had Ryan Miller, to have Dominic Hasek. Like the Leafs throughout their history haven't had the best goalies. I know they did back in the day when they won their cups, but like it's a different game now. They haven't had it in the modern NHL. So they've done everything they needed to do in the bottom of their lineup and in their defense. But like if you don't have that guy in the way that even Boston went out and got Ullmark, like we knew Ullmark was good from his time with the Sabres.
Yeah.
And like Carolina, they play a better defensive structure and it worked with Freddie Anderson. Now it's working with Antti Raanta. You know what I mean? Like I just don't think they're good enough defensively to make up for the fact that they've always had average goaltenders. So we'll see what happens. Like if Samsonov continues to stay hot, like I do believe they have the talent that they could beat anybody. They just need to have that guy that only lets up 2 to 3 goals a game. So
you also got to hope that if you don't get past, if you don't get past for B, if you only get past first and do nothing more than that, like say, you win tomorrow night, end the first round drought, but then you get dummied in the second round. Either you get swept or you lose 4-1. Like Austin Matthews. I mean, you have both their contracts ending in the same year. Are those both guys that are going to want to return and just kind of go through this vicious cycle? Especially in such a hot market where criticism, from at least from the media, is probably none worse than it is in Toronto.
For sure.
Again, I know the speculation about Austin Matthews is always with Arizona. Like, is he going to go back home? But I'm a big conspiracy theorist guy. I love a good conspiracy theory. I'm convinced that when Pittsburgh won the lottery for Sidney Crosby, it was fixed 100%. Mario Lemieux himself might have been picking that lottery ball out of there. I am convinced that I'm convinced that Arizona's winning the draft lottery this year.
Well, I personally think it's going to be the Blackhawks, but
no way. I mean, if I'm being a conspiracy theorist, it's going to be Arizona because Gary Bettman is doing everything he can to get hockey to work in Arizona, and they're getting.
They don't even have an arena,
but they're getting an arena.
Are they building a new one?
Oh yeah, it's getting built.
Okay,
it's getting built. They're getting a brand new
They're playing in a college arena until that happens. But like, as you said, he's doing everything he can. But is it ever gonna work? Like, I know that they have a lot. Like Tage Thompson's from Arizona. Austin Matthews is from Arizona. I think there's another guy recently that also came out of Arizona. Like they have the youth hockey there. They have the program.
Yeah, they're hockey. I think it's also from what I remember when they were located before when they were the Phoenix Coyotes. I guess the arena was located in a really terrible place. It wasn't a focal point, as far as driving attention to the team. I remember reading about it. I guess this time around it's going to be different, hopefully for their sake. And then you hear about even more expansion. I'm hearing with the next 5 to 6 years, you give 35 to 36 teams in the NHL, which is insanity to me.
Gosh, I mean,
and watch Quebec still not get a hockey team.
I mean, Atlanta has a lot of smoke because they're
for a
building
third time
that like big convention center outside of the city, north of the city now. So, I mean, it's not the worst idea given that it's such a big transportation hub and it is a huge market.
Could you imagine being a Quebec fan, a Quebec hockey fan, and seeing Atlanta get their third hockey team, and then you're just really, what the fuck?
More than anybody, obviously, Quebec deserves it. So I hope they get it. But yeah,
I truly believe they win the draft lottery, and that's gonna be so much incentive for a guy like Austin Matthews when his contract is up. Kind of looking like, it'd be really a lot of fun to go back home and play with the next Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Literally named Connor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they know they messed up by letting McDavid go to Edmonton in terms of like his visibility around the league, or not even around the league, around the country, around the world. Like Connor McDavid is the best player in all 4 major sports: hockey, baseball, basketball, football. He's better than the second best person who's on his own team. And that second best person's only really as good as he is because he plays with him on the power play for the most part.
Yeah.
I just think that like to lead credence to your theory, like they know they messed up by letting him go to Edmonton.
Arizona, what is that? A 1 or 2 hour time difference on the East Coast?
I think they're one ahead of us. I think they're mountain time. So I think it's 2 hours.
So I mean, it's not nearly as bad as the 3. I mean, you could still market. You can still market him.
That's the thing, though. Like, I don't think Connor Bedard is going to be Connor McDavid. I really don't. I don't think.
I still think he's going to be an elite hockey player.
He's going to be really, really good, but like, I don't think anyone's going to be McDavid. What he's done in the league, let alone just this year, since he's arrived, is just absolutely remarkable. And like we thought, Eichel was going to be like the 1A to the 1B to 1A, like not even close. That
also entailed. There was so much smoke around that draft, and the consolation prize was Eichel. Like,
yeah, it's why you needed to tank, so you'd have one or two.
Yeah, one of the two.
You saw how upset Tim Murray was when the Sabres didn't get the number 1 pick. He obviously wanted McDavid. Gosh, if only that ping pong ball had rolled the Sabres' way that day. But hindsight's 2020. Yeah, I mean, specifically that series. Like, I think the Kings are a bad matchup for the Oilers. I really do. Just the way they play the game. They're very defensively sound, and they have guys that can put the puck in the net. And Korpisalo, as we've seen in the past, can steal you a game. Like he had, I think, 85 saves in that overtime game against the Lightning a few years ago. It was in the bubble, but he had 85 saves. So he's a guy that can do it. And obviously it's 2-2. It's going back home to Edmonton, and they, of course, need to win that game because the Kings are really, really good at home. But if McDavid has a first-round exit, I can't even imagine how upset the league would be. I mean, Gary Bettman doesn't seem like he gives a shit either way. But for the people that really care about hockey and the visibility of it, you need McDavid to go. And personally, selfishly, like I hope he does too, because I like watching him, and I think everybody enjoys watching him who really care.
I mean, especially you get McDavid. Again, more 8:00 games as the playoffs go on.
Yeah,
more easier to stomach watch games. Yeah, for me, it's just you gotta find a way to market that guy as much as you can. The best way to market is them deep playoff runs. And
for sure, it would be the greatest thing if they.
How many?
Like let's say it was Bruins Oilers or Rangers Oilers in the Cup final.
Was it 160 points he had this season?
165, I think.
Jesus, wow.
Basically 2 points per game.
Yeah,
I mean he did otherworldly stuff, and there's no reason he can't do that every single season from now on, given the way the game is played these days. So much more offense, so much more goal scoring, emphasis on the power play. The dude is faster than everybody else. He's better than everybody else.
It's not even close.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, as much visibility on a Michael Jordan type player as possible would be the greatest thing for the NHL. So would you say right now he is the most dominant player in his sport across all 4 sports? Well, that's why, like 100%. And it's not even close. Not even close in my opinion. Like the best comparison would be Shohei Ohtani, in my opinion, given the fact that he's so dominant at pitching and a very good hitter, but he's not even the best hitter. And obviously, like, how could he be the best at both? But in my opinion, like that's the closest comparison. Like there's a debate for MVP in the NBA between Jokic and Embiid. They're both obviously very good, but there is a debate. Football, like who even knows who the best player is now? Obviously Mahomes, but like it's not that big of a difference between Mahomes and Allen and Mahomes and Burrow. And like you can make an argument for a lot of different guys, Jalen Hurts now. So the fact that McDavid is head and shoulders above everybody else in his sport, and it's a very hard sport to do that. Like it's a very team specific, not individual sport. And he's by far the best player. So yeah, they need to do whatever they possibly can to market him. And they're not doing a great job so far.
While we've been talking, the Oilers went up 2-0 tonight. Robertson getting the second goal. Another electric player that's so much fun to watch.
The Stars, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Stars. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah, Stars. In that series of Dallas and Wild, because yeah. So, Robertson getting the second goal. Another player that's absolutely electric to watch.
And another player that anybody who doesn't follow hockey has no idea who he is, which is insane to me. Not to necessarily bring race into it, but like he's an Asian. I think he's American. Is he? He might be Canadian. I'm not sure. He's an Asian NHL superstar. That doesn't happen. And like you have a lot of opportunity to market a guy like that, to get him to be more seen. Like he is a top 5 player in the league, and he will be for the next 10 years. And nobody knows who he is. It's just insane to me. But that's the problem with the NHL. And I think it's going to continue for a long time because it still is a niche sport. But thankfully, people that listen to this show and the two of us and everybody else, I think Sabres fans have some of the highest TV ratings for the NHL playoffs every single year, even though the Sabres aren't in it. They know who these guys are. They follow the game. They know the sport. They know it inside and out. So,
and the Islanders are up 2-1 on the Hurricanes. About 3 minutes left in the second period. Obviously a must-win situation for the Islanders. Goals in that game coming from, for the Isles, Peter Engvall and Brock Nelson. Obviously Sorokin at 21 saves on 22 shots against. Hurricanes lone goal coming from Derek Stepan. Antti Ranta with 11 saves on 13 shots against. Again, I honestly, a series that I haven't really shown a ton of interest in because it's been really boring, low scoring hockey, just very, low, very, low entertainment value for me in terms of anything having to do with the New York Islanders.
Yeah, well, I just like watching Sorokin personally.
Well, as a goalie, you love watching. You love watching a guy like Sorokin, but I can't get into those games, man.
It's tough. I mean, no, it's tough for any casual fan to do so unless you like really, really care about the team. But I mean, with me in any hockey game, I love watching any goalie, let alone like one of the best in the league. When you watch a Rangers game, I try to focus in on Shesterkin. And with the Islanders, obviously, he's a top 5 goalie. So it is cool to watch him. And I think he's obviously kept them in it as much as he possibly can. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, he's been fun to watch.
Yep. And then obviously the play of Shesterkin, I think he's like when you talk about Sorokin, I feel the same way about Shesterkin. Guy's just, otherworldly, I guess. Would you still consider Vasilevsky the best goalie in the world, or are you giving that title to Shesterkin?
No, I would say for me, it's, Vasilevsky, it's tough because like we talked about, he's played so much, and I do think the fatigue is building up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But for me, it's probably 1A, 1B, Shesterkin and Hellebuck, in my opinion. I think Saros has a claim. Obviously, his team hasn't been in these types of positions in a long time. And Sorokin's obviously very good. Allmark is getting into the conversation the way that he's been playing and played this season. But consistently over the past 3 years, and obviously right now, if I'm going to take a guy to win me one game 7 of a cup final, I'm probably going to pick Shesterkin. And that's why I was so high on the Rangers coming into this playoffs and coming into this season. Like they have a pretty good team, obviously not as good as the Bruins or the firepower of the Avalanche or the Oilers, but like they have a very well-rounded team and also the best goalie in the league. So I really do believe they can upset whoever moves on.
I love Connor Hellebuck, but I don't know. Right now, I'm not even putting him in my top 3 in the playoffs.
He's not played well this series. I mean, no, he started game 1. He was great. But the thing with him is that like he can just go. He can go off. Like with his size and his positioning, I really do. And I think his team's not as good, so that doesn't help him. But I really do love his game, and I think he's been underrated for a long time, honestly. But to each his own.
Yeah, can he go off? Yes. Does he go off? No. You need him to make a deep playoff run in order for me to be in that conversation. And right now, it's for me. In a game 7 situation, people might disagree, but I'm still taking Vasilevsky over everybody else because he's been there so often.
In the past 3 years, for sure. I just think that this season you can kind of tell, like,
oh yeah, the wear definitely.
Yeah, definitely wearing on him for sure.
He's essentially played 4 seasons of hockey in 3 years.
Exactly. So
it's
tough for anybody, and as a bigger guy too, like it does take longer to recover and go back to back or every other night. So it's not an enviable position, and I think he still has played pretty well, but I don't think he's the guy that is gonna take them on their back and bring them to another Cup Finals appearance. I think it's going to be really
Speaking of Connor Hellebuck, obviously Vegas has been rolling. Jack Eichel's been rolling. I hate saying it, but he has been. He's, I think that first game 1 where he finished that game of -3, he's left that in the rear view, and he's really been able to take over a lot of these games. I think he had a 3 or 4 point night the other night. Do they play tonight?
I think tomorrow, to be honest.
Tomorrow night, yeah, they play tomorrow night.
Yeah,
and that they have a chance to close that series out, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's 3-1. Started off 1-0. They've won 3 straight. We can all swallow our pride and say that Jack Eichel is a really good hockey player. I think.
I don't think there's ever question.
Yeah, like nobody's ever said that.
Never been questioned.
No, it's just the way he went out, and especially after that first game is the reason that a lot of Sabres fans and most of Buffalo will never feel the same way about him personally. I think he has become the villain, rightly so, and he put that on himself the way that he acted. I do believe that of course it was a tricky situation what happened with the surgery, but the way he acted after that first game, it got to his ego that he was booed. I don't know how he thought he wasn't going to be booed, but the things that he said, and now he's moved on, and I think for the most part we've moved on too. We can just watch him and appreciate for him for being a really good hockey player, and also knowing that, in my opinion, I think Alex Tuch is just as good. And we got Payne Krebs, and we got a first-round pick. So I'm not too worried about it. I think whatever. Going back to his team, though, the Knights are a very good team. Mark Stone, Chandler Stevenson, Alex Pietrangelo, they have a very good team top to bottom, and we've seen that since they've entered the league. So they should beat the Jets, even though I think Hellebuck is the best player maybe on both teams. I really do believe he's very, very good, and he just doesn't get the support that other top goalies do. So
no, I don't think there's any question how good of a goaltender he is.
He needs to prove it in the playoffs.
Yes, exactly.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, Vegas, they of course can make some noise. The West isn't as good as the East. It's not going to be as much of a gauntlet. It depends on who they play next, but I think
if there was a year for Vegas to make noise, especially with their situation, and not this would be the year, because it's a very open, the landscape in the West is very open. There's really no clear cut favorite, and it's really anybody's game. Is it Brossois and who's the other goaltender?
Jonathan Quick.
Oh, that's right. It is Quick. I forgot.
Jonathan Quick backing him up. I would love somehow for the Kings to play the Knights and for Quick to be in net for the Knights. From a goalie revenge perspective, I think they did him dirty.
You almost forget about Johnny Quick.
Well, they did him dirty, and they dealt him to Columbus at the deadline, and of course they shipped him right back to Vegas. But for him to he's a New York guy. He's from Ithaca. For him to get in a playoff series against the Kings, I think that would be all the motivation he would need. Obviously, he's not the same as he used to be. He's not as flexible. He's not as aggressive. He can't do the things he once did back in 2012. But I would love to see that play out. I really would.
I think if and when he plans to retire, he's just moved back to New York. And if he's going to do that, he might as well just spend his last year close to home in New York and come be the backup for Devin Levi. Just
that's the thing, though. You would like that, but
It'll never happen.
I feel like I want a better backup. Like he's great, and like what
I think in terms of tutelage and obviously the similarities in their game, that's a guy along
could
with
be good. As we've talked with Fleury, like that type of guy would be great.
Those two guys, I think.
Don't know if Quick is I don't know if Quick's giving you 30 games next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like I think Fleury absolutely could where he is in his career. I just like maybe Quick in like a 20, 25 game Craig Anderson type role, but like you don't want to carry 3 goalies next year. Like ideally, that's not what you want to do. No. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I see what you're saying. As flexible as he is, as quick as he is, no pun intended. Him and Levi obviously share a lot of similarities, and like you said, being close to home would be cool. So we'll see.
Islanders up 3-1.
Your boy Dewey will be happy.
Dewey, yeah, he's definitely going to be happy. Barzal got the third one. Obviously, they're trying to make a series out of it. I mean, you have to. Backs against the wall. Are they playing at home tonight?
Yeah, they are at home. No, I think that's in Carolina actually. Yeah, it is. So
because Carolina had home ice advantage over there.
You get that back to Long Island for Game 6. Anything can happen.
As Dewey likes to call it, the IBS arena, irritable bowel syndrome arena.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of came across our timelines today, not related to the playoffs, is Patrick Berglund's comments about Tage Thompson on the
wrestling music out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like where did this come from?
Right. Here's the thing. I saw them because Cam Jansen, he's been on our program a couple of times. One of my favorite guests to have on. Very animated, very cool guy. If you ever, want to text him about something, he's always responsive. Always speaking of Dewey Crocs, there he is. Oh, not sure if it's popping up or not.
Yeah, I was showing it tonight.
Again, just obviously they brought their A game, Dewey. A couple clicks for the Isles, but obviously I noticed them kind of advertising that episode the day before, and I'm like, Patrick Berglund, haven't heard that name in a while. And then off the top rope, just out of nowhere, decides to take shots at Tage Thompson and his maturity level when he first came into the locker room, like he wasn't an 18, 19-year-old kid. And like Patrick Berglund was anything to fucking sneeze at, or, I'm sure he was a fan favorite in St. Louis for quite some time. I know they gave him that extension, a lot of which he left on the table when he decided to dip on the Sabres because he wasn't happy about the trade to begin with, which is his own fault, him and his own agent's fault for not submitting their list of teams. Sorry, it's your guys' fault, not ours. Then he dipped on us when he was slotted in to be the second line center for Buffalo that year. All worked out at the end, but I was not expecting to see Patrick Berglund of all people take those shots at Tage Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly very salty, as you mentioned about the trade, how it went down. I think, I got you. You hear me? Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. But
I can hear you.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, he's clearly very salty at how the trade went down. He, for whatever reason, obviously didn't work out. He played 1 or 2 games for the Sabres, or maybe none at all. I can't specifically remember. But he basically retired immediately after the trade, and his career was over. So for him at that point, not only to mention how Tage came into Buffalo and thought he was a big deal, but also to mention how Tage got drafted by St. Louis as a first-round pick, no less, and came in and thought he was a big deal. It was definitely a personal shot, and it felt like something deeper between them for some reason, which, like, at that point, like, you're a 12, 13-year NHL veteran. Like, why are you caring this much about a rookie in his first year in the league, coming into training camp and thinking he's good? Like, these guys these days, they have so much skill, and clearly Tage Thompson has always had it. Like, he's developed his game and he's rounded it out, but like, that is why he was drafted. He's always had this skill. He's always had this shot. But for him 5 years later to like say these things out of nowhere, like I haven't even thought about the name Patrick Berglund since he left the Sabres in the fall of 2019. Like, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever. And I even said, like, go to bed. Like, nobody cares what you have to say. Like, I just don't, like, now that he didn't even say anything complimentary about how good he is now. He's just like, oh, everybody's texting my friends are texting me now about how good Tage Thompson is. And I'm just like, I can't believe it. Like, fuck you, man. Get out of here. Like, nobody cares. Like, stay in your cottage. It's somewhere in Sweden. Like, nobody cares what you think about Tage Thompson. Oh, it got me fired up, honestly, because, like, the road that Tage Thompson has taken to become a top 5 player in the league is very difficult. And for a career 3rd to 4th liner like Patrick Berglund to be like, oh, this kid, when he was a rookie, he thought he was all that. And now I can't believe he's as good as he is. Like, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares what you have to say. So, yeah, end of rant.
I couldn't care less.
It just was like from left field, off the top rope. I couldn't believe it. I think you're breaking up a little bit again. I'm not sure.
Literally 0 people care at all. Nobody cares at all. Mike still coming in clear?
Your video is slow, and then everything else is like super delayed. So I think it might be your connection again. Oh, so Duane, in the meantime, while he fixes his internet, I'll keep it going here. But yeah, if you haven't, for those that are listening and listen to this in the future, if you haven't heard the Patrick Berglund comments on Tage Thompson, just look it up. You'll find it. It is one of the more random and asinine things that a former player has said about a current player in the league in a long time. Like, usually these guys like really do get along with each other, and especially after their careers are over, you have no reason to just take a shot at a guy randomly. And for a guy like Patrick Berglund to do that to Tage Thompson, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, it was just uncalled for. And it got to the point where I was listening to it. I was just like, what prompted this? Like, why would you say these things about a guy that's clearly succeeding now and is 5 years past the situation that you're even referring to? A guy that just got a 7-year, $47 million contract, scored 90 points this season, 47 goals, 47 assists. Like, it really did not make sense to me. So yeah, I mean, at this point, like, I think we can all move on from that trade. Obviously, Ryan O'Reilly went to the Blues, won a Conn Smythe Trophy for Tage Thompson, and it didn't look good at first. And his first couple of years in the league, obviously, were a little bit tough. Injury-ridden. He was still getting his footing. Ralph Kruger was his coach, so I don't think that helps matters for anybody. Jeff Skinner, Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin. You hear me?
You hear me? I can hear you, yes.
Okay, cool. Your connection's good. I was still going on my Patrick Berglund rant.
Well, actually, now your audio is all over the place.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Listen, I don't know what's going on here, bud. But hold on.
How's it sound? It's just me again, guys. I can continue the Patrick Berglund rant because I am really fired up about this. It's just like, I don't know. I would encourage everybody to listen to it if you haven't already. It just felt very personal. It felt extremely
All right, guys, I apologize for the tech difficulties there. I guess I'm having some issues on my end over the last 2 episodes. But piggybacking off of what we left off on, again, I'm not sure if Hurls moved on from the subject, but to his point on the Patrick Berglund, Tage Thompson comments, a guy who quit on this team, a guy who had a temper tantrum about being traded, like that isn't something that's going to happen. in the business of sports. Even the best players in the world have been traded multiple times, whether they liked it or not. I mean, Gretzky was traded twice or three times even. And I guess Patrick Berglund's just too good. Was too good to be traded and was unhappy with where he went, even though it was his own fault and his agent's own fault. Tucked his tail and ran, and then decides to take shots at Tage Thompson of all people when brought up just in casual conversation on the Cam and Strick podcast, one of my favorite, hockey podcasts out there. Shout out to Cam Jansen and Andy Strickland, and he absolutely just sat there and butchered the Sabres. Or I'm sorry, butchered Tage Thompson. And I don't understand it at all. It's immaturity on his part. Maybe he's salty. I don't know. Still salty about what happened in the situation with Buffalo. But he made his choice. He dug his own bed. He has to lie in it. And to Connor's point, just go back to whatever cottage or shanty you're sleeping over in Sweden and just stay there and just be quiet.
I'm sure it's not a shanty. Like, the dude played well. Like, he had a pretty good career. Wait, do you hear like an echo when I speak?
Again, Connor, for whatever reason, your audio is coming in crazy, scratchy.
Yeah, I mean, I hear an echo when when I'm speaking on your end. I don't know if it's mine, but I haven't changed anything.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming in good. It's on my end, guys. I apologize, Connor. I'm gonna let you take this one home. I'm gonna. If you want to keep going, that's fine, guys. I apologize. I'm having some tech difficulties here. I promise to have these sorted out on the next episode or next edition of I'll Hang Up and Listen. But now his audio is not even coming in for me for whatever reason. So
I think we just about covered what we were going to cover anyway. I'm good if you're good.
So I'll let him take it home. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And, unless Connor, do you have anything else to say?
Do you hear me?
I mean, I'll judge by that sign language. We'll leave it off on that point. But again, guys, thanks for sticking around. This has been episode 122 of Two Goalies, One Mic. Again, I apologize for the tech difficulties. Promise to have these all resolved by the next episode. Again, you guys have a great night. Enjoy what's left to be viewed for hockey tonight in the playoffs, and we will talk to you soon.